Hey everyone, a wonderful good morning, good day, good evening, good night, wherever you are. I don't bite usually. I might give snarky comments because we are back with the Opinionated thoughtbotter. I'm Svenja, your host, and with me today is Joel. Joel, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm a developer here at thoughtbot. I am based on the US East Coast in the city of Boston, and I co host the Bike Shed podcast, which is another production by thoughtbot, where we talk a little bit about the experience of being a developer. Sometimes we dive into technical topics, sometimes we talk a little bit about more sort of social things around what it's like to be a developer.
Good. It's really good having you. Thanks so much. So let's dive in. What is your opinion?
So my opinion is that you get better results out of working with AI when you stop trying to one-shot your solutions and instead sort of lean into the sort of looping or reactive side of those tools.
Okay. Well, if you would have asked me, which you didn't, I would have said don't try to use AI in general. But what do you mean with one-shot problems? Like, was it was AI?
So sort of a classic, maybe like Chat GPT type situation. You try to write the perfect prompt. It's going to churn a little bit, and then it's going to write an answer back for you. Um, or you might say like write a script for me, something like that. And that sort of has its limitations. The script might not run correctly. There might be some trivial errors in it. Um, Instead, with if you're working with more of an agent type setup, what it can do is it will take actions, but then it can receive feedback, react to that feedback, and then take more actions. So it might write a script for you, attempt to run it, see that it immediately crashes because there's a syntax error, fix it, try to run it again. Now it's successful, and now you have something that works.
So it's more like a workflow?
Um, I'm very careful with the term workflow because
Okay.
as of the time of this recording, Anthropic's just released a thing called workflow, which is very different from what I'm talking about.
Okay.
This is really just leaning into the fact that your AI tool can respond to stimulus in its environment and then self-correct. So it's not just a one and done, write some code for me. It's write some code, look for feedback, iterate on your code, and build it to a point where it's something good.
How does it correct the feedback? Or how does it get like receive the feedback?
So that there's a whole sort of world of like how do we give better feedback to an agent. Sometimes
Okay.
it will try to verify things on its own. Sometimes you might give it explicit rules of things that it has to do, either through prompting, through sort of hard coded hooks in its configuration, through Git hooks. But a very common thing it might just try to do is just try to see, can I run this code? If it's something as small as a script. If it's building a feature for you, then it might try to do things like run the tests and see, do the tests still pass? And if it broke some tests by the changes it made, it won't just say, hey, I wrote some code for you, it's broken. It will then respond to that and fix the tests or fix the code that it wrote so that it's not breaking the tests anymore. So
How reliable? Go ahead. Go ahead.
instead of just going ahead and trying to write code and sort of going off just straight up intelligence of here's how I think it probably should work, it actually sort of verifies its work and can build code in an iterative fashion.
But it's still gonna write the test for you, or would you write the tests?
That's really up to you and your workflow.
Okay.
In a very sort of simplified mode, you could say there is no, maybe you've written a test, maybe there is no test, but you just say whatever change you make has to not break the existing system. And so it just needs to make sure that the existing test suite passes. There are fancier approaches where you might say, I want you to write it, or maybe you want a different agent to write it, and they're sort of in a more oppositional mode. Uh, the really important thing for this idea, though, is that it's not a one and done write code. It's a write code, get feedback, improve the code. And it can go like this for multiple loops until it gets something it's satisfied with.
It or you? Because in the end, in the end, you need to be satisfied with what you deliver, right?
Yes. I am a much, I think, harsher judge of the code than the AI is. So I wouldn't always say that I'm satisfied with it, but leaning into that approach leads to code that is much closer to what I'm satisfied with than just a like one and done prompt.
It remembers me a little bit on like how you level up a junior developer or like someone who's new to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you now try to level up AI, artificial intelligence. Does it? Is that the same? So
I think
more or
there
less.
are definitely some similarities there. Being able to, I think, get feedback from automated tooling, or just learning to test your work, is definitely a thing that you need to learn as a very junior developer, right? That like, oh, I wrote some code, it probably works, putting it up for review, and then having somebody like, there's an obvious bug here, or being asked, did you even run this code? I think is a rite of passage for many of us in the industry.
Very good question. Yes. Did you run the tests? Did you restart the server?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah. I just like feel like it. Yeah. If you now go to level up like AI agents, LLM agents, it's you. Are you still enjoying it? Like, do you
I
enjoy the
am.
process of leveling up um, something not human?
I would say yes. That's sort of what I've done. My whole career has been uh, building automations with things that are not human. Um, so this doesn't feel that different than the work I've done for the past almost 20 years now.
Okay, I do have a question. Do you remember Tamagotchis?
I never had one, so I'm aware of them, but I don't have personal experience with a Tamagotchi.
You never had one.
No.
When you told me about LLM agents, I for whatever reason I Tamagotchis came to my mind because I did had one, and it's just like you had to level it up, right? You had to keep it alive. And when I think of leveling up something not human, I just like thought, well, I mean, does it feel as satisfying as keeping something robotic in an egg? Like, is it does it feel the same like when you level up LLM? See, I can't even say that, so I would need AI to for me to speak. But
We're
yeah,
just going to cut in
I
a voiceover every time you say LLM.
okay
Just a very
LLM,
robotic voiceover.
right? Tamagotchi died. Yeah, I just like because back then it's kind of similar. Like we tried to keep it alive. We handed it to friends, and then we just like, but it was not human. But it distracted us so much. I don't say, well, no, I do say AI distracts us from, in my opinion, very important things like human interactions. But I'm happy that you get satisfaction out of it. But yeah, do you see a parallel in some way between Tamagotchis, who are at least very cute, and LLM agents?
So you're really leaning to the sort of the leveling concept. I think you get that with a Tamagotchi, you get that with classic video games, RPGs, things like that, and getting that level is always really exciting. What's interesting with an LLM is that there's no sort of clear progression. Everybody's just trying out things, and a lot of it is very specific to your situation and task. So I'm using LLMs are fun to tinker with in the same way that some people love to tinker with cars, but also for me they're a tool to get a job done. And so I'm trying to see, can I get it to automate certain parts of my workflow? And so in that sense, I think it feels maybe less like leveling up a character in a video game, and a little bit more like playing around with my Vim configuration or personal scripts or things like that. And when I get it to do something and be like, wow, that feels really good, that the thing I was trying to do now works automatically.
I do get the automation reasoning behind it. I do like to write scripts to make my life easier. Not specifically faster. I do like to take time for something. I do enjoy the process of figuring something out, but it feels like you enjoy the same, but just like you put the focus on figuring out how to let these agents become more robust and more knowledgeable. Is that the case?
The tooling itself is definitely a satisfying problem to try to solve. But also there are parts of development that are just not particularly interesting to me. And if I can automate those away,
Tell me,
it's great.
what's not interesting for you?
Anytime that I'm trying to do a task and then I'm sort of distracted by random problems in, let's say, my environment, that can be really frustrating.
For example?
So I try to start a new feature and just immediately the first command I try to run crashes because some sort of dependency is not installed or got messed up on my system. And one thing leads to another. And, 2 hours later, now I'm like reinstalling a C compiler because it's not compatible with the Apple Dev Tools or whatever. And I'm just getting more frustrated by the minute because this is not what I set out to do this morning. And I don't particularly enjoy that type of tinkering with the system. And LLMs are really good at recovering from that kind of error. So if I'm just like, hey, run this command for me, and it gets an error, it will immediately be like, oh, I could probably do this, I could do this, I could do that. And 5 or 10 minutes, my environment's ready to go and I can do the thing I wanted to do.
I do see the point. I do have another point to make for that. And like every new project, I do think every developer faces exactly that issue, right? Be it like bigger or smaller, but dependency outdated. It's not compatible with whatever package. I think, the documentation is not up to date because dependencies should be mentioned in the documentation, how to run bin setup, and bin setup should work. So my first PR in that case would be then, and that would be very satisfying to me when I'm new to a project. Oh, I can update the documentation. I help my fellow colleagues who will have to run this project again as well in a week, in a month, or whatsoever.
I think there are sort of a couple of types of dependencies that we're talking about here. Things that are part of the project, yes, those make a great first PR. The types of things I often interact with where I might feel that frustration are less part of the project and maybe more part of the core operating system, or like general environment things that you would not include in part of the project. And, you can get around some of that stuff with Dockerization and things like that to try to create a more consistent environment. But there's sort of always edge cases or things that aren't quite working. And that's not where I like to spend my time.
I do understand it. And I do like that people are different. I also really don't like dealing with these things. I just feel like whenever I hit any kind of issue, I was able to go online, check Stack Overflow, or any of the other resources, or ask in our dev channel on Slack. And nowadays, like more and more results were written with AI. And then it's really difficult to differentiate between what was written by a human and what was written by AI. So I do have that because I do need the social and the human interactions. I mean, this is me. I do need it. And I just fear that this decreases and decreases more and more. Do you pair with people on building, of leveling up LLMs? It's horrible.
Not that much. I've been staffed on a bunch of solo projects for the past several years. So I'd say about the similar rate as I did before AI tooling became a thing, right? So before that, I would be pairing on deterministic scripts. Now maybe I discuss or pair on AI tooling. So I don't think it's really made a difference before and after.
Do you share what you find? Like,
Yes. Internally at thoughtbot, a little bit externally as well. I have some things that I'm trying to polish up and publish. I've done some presentations internally. I will be speaking at Rails World in the fall about some of these approaches, particularly that leaning into the sort of self-correcting nature of AI agents, and trying to get them to the point where they can self-correct as much as possible to give you an artifact that's closer to what you're asking for.
can you tell us a little bit about how you do that with the self-correcting? How does it look like?
Yeah, so I first started getting into generating code with an LLM, and I was really frustrated at the results. I would get a maybe a large ticket that's like, okay, this is scoped out about 2 days worth of work, and then I would sort of work with the LLM to come up with a plan, and then I'd have it execute it, and it would like mostly work. I'm like, wow, we did this in 20 minutes, and this was a 2-day ticket. Isn't that great? And then I'd start reviewing the code and be like, I don't like that. I don't like that. That's bad. That's bad. And go back and fix things. And after I'd put in all the time to fix it, I realized I spent the entire like rest of that 2-day allotted time fixing the issues that the LLM created. And I had not saved any time.
That's where I am. I am at that point. I just like whenever I see something that was written by AI or produced by AI, I just like, no, it just like takes me so much time to review that, and it's it's not saving. So continue.
So
Sorry.
I was asking myself, okay, how can I decrease that? I'm perfectly happy to have a review phase, but that review phase was just so long and I was having to give it so many basic things to fix that it was not worth my time. So my idea was not to eliminate the review phase, but instead find ways to raise the floor so that now maybe instead of spending 2 days reviewing it, I'm spending a couple of hours. And a lot of things, it's like, okay, maybe can I encode some of my best practices in a prompt or in like a agents.md or a claude.md sort of file, and just trying to give it all the information up front was not giving me the results I wanted. And honestly, I feel like when you're talking to somebody else and you're giving them instructions on how you want them to write code, just dumping all of this information all at once is often not the most helpful. And so oftentimes, and even for myself, when I'm writing code, what I find is I'll write a first draft, do a self-review pass on it, and then iterate on it based off of that, because I don't always see the full pattern in my head, right? I'm writing code in response to an idea I had, maybe because I'm test driving, but at some point I've got to step back and look at my code and be like, oh, I don't like the shape of that, or I don't like this piece, and then I'll improve it. So the idea was trying to say, can I take that flow and bring it to the LLM?
That sounds great. Is there anything that you wouldn't use agents for? Like, I mean, you said like you use it to automate things that you don't like to work on, which makes sense. But are there areas that you wouldn't use it for?
I think there's probably a lot of nuance there. I'm like totally happy to have a workflow where it writes code, then I review it, or it's an interactive process, things like that. I think you do have to worry sometimes about data and privacy and things like that. If you're working with, let's say, medical records, maybe those medical records should not go into the LLM. Right. So that's a situation where you might decide I'm not going to use it, or at least I'm going to use it only on code, but not on data. Or I'm going to use it on a fake data set or something like that.
Do you think there are enough resources out there to know how to differentiate between them? Or because it comes so easy, right? It's just like there. You can just like write your prompts and you will get something back. Like, I just like fear that this knowledge and the recognition that something you shouldn't use it for, like you said, like medical data, that this will get lost.
That should definitely be a thing that organizations are thinking about, right? And I'm sure they do, right? If you are an organization that handles medical patient data, and in the United States, you're covered under HIPAA, is the law that governs medical data. Leaking that is a really bad violation and has a lot of fines and things like that associated. And so these companies, and I've worked with some of them, they have pretty strict rules about what data can and can't go where. And that's not just LLMs, right? It's often things like HIPAA or health data cannot be put into, let's say, a Google Doc, or it can't be put into a Jira ticket. Even if you're investigating a particular bug for a particular customer, you might be able to put their ID number and say, investigate customer ID 123 because they're experiencing this behavior, but you cannot put a list of their medication yes. in the Jira ticket, even if that's part of the bug, because it is not a system that's considered secure for health data.
Another area would be finance, right? I would be, I don't, I wouldn't feel very comfortable if I would know, like, my banking app would rely heavily on AI. I would suggest you gonna do your grocery shopping over there because it's cheaper, because you spend so much time on that. I'm very careful with anything when it comes to money or data in general, private data. So yeah, but AI is learning from this data anyway, like not from medical data, but from code and public available code, open source code. Is that not a problem for you?
No. No. If I publish open source code, I don't mind if you train your AI on it. I put it out there for the world to use. You can read it, learn from it, copy it. I tend to publish most of my stuff under the MIT license, which is basically do whatever you want with it, but you can't sue me if the code doesn't work the way you want. Like, I give you free use of it, but I have no responsibility.
Yes, high stuff. Yeah. Don't put it in your code. Yeah. Is there anything that you wish AI could do? Like, is there anything that's missing?
I think we're still learning a lot of patterns to work with it. So there's a lot of things that sort of emerge. And the industry is definitely not settled to an equilibrium point. I know that sometimes I get very frustrated at the results. Like, there's so much potential and it just doesn't quite get to what I want it to do. And then I feel frustrated because there's a lot of promise, and along the way, it looks like it's going to be really good. And then at the very end, it just doesn't quite deliver. And I would love to get there. I'm not sure that it's smarter models, though. The current models are very smart. They can do a lot of things. Some of that might be the tooling or the way that we work around them. And those are ways that I'm still experimenting with. And sort of similar to that original opinion, right? I don't know that, like, you can sort of keep growing a smarter and smarter model so that it could maybe one-shot some code. But this agentic pattern where it can run your code or get other feedback from the environment, tests, types, linters, other LLM reviews, just all sorts of things where it can just go back and forth and refine its code, lead to much better outcomes, even with a model that's not quite as smart. So I think some people put all of their hope in more intelligence. I think there's some value in smarter models, but a lot of it is going to be how we use the models that we have, how we build workflows around them, and how we leverage their current capabilities.
Yeah. How do we make them senior? I like that. Gosh, that was very interesting. I mean, my state on AI, I never hold back from it. I do see points on, and I do see that it gets better and better. I mean, lots of folks use AI, and which is fine to me, as long as I feel that my time gets respected, so that it's not like, oh, Svenja will review it, so I don't care. I don't check it before I publish it or whatever.
You don't want to be taking those time savings out of somebody else's time, right? If I generate code and then make you do the review part and like force you to like tweak and fix my code, that's not time savings. That's just shifting my work onto you. And,
Yeah.
now it's just an accounting trick. So that's not good.
I'm so fast and you're slow. Yes.
No, that's because you're doing my work.
Yes, exactly. Do you have any tips that you would like to give anyone out there who is listening, how to start and how to make your LLM become more senior?
Try to think about ways that you can give it feedback about your code. In particular, if it generates code for you and you don't like what it generated for you, and your instinct might be, all right, I'm going to reprompt it or give it sort of a feedback that says, hey, I don't like you did this, do it different. Consider how it might have discovered that on its own. So can you encode that opinion that you have in maybe a linter rule that it could run? Such that then instead of you having to tell it, no, you did it wrong, it runs a linter rule, gets told it did it wrong, refixes it, and then you only get to see it after it went through that back and forth. Because you don't have time to tell it that, oh, you put 2,000 lines in one method. That's not good. So a lot of stylistic things could really benefit from linter rules. And linter rules are sometimes they can be hard to write, but an LLM can be really good at helping you write a fancier linter rule. So sometimes you say, okay, well, the thing I want to say is more nuanced than just don't write 2,000 line functions. You might say, I like to write conditionals that are in this shape, except when there's this other contextual information. And like maybe you'd have to query the AST a little bit, and that's just a little bit beyond your capabilities as a lint rule writer. But an LLM can help you bridge that gap. And so it can kind of help you write the tooling that you need to improve it. I think a lot of people are trying to encode their stylistic preferences in sort of markdown files that an LLM will try to implement, and it just doesn't do that consistently. And again, if you're trying to give it a lot of info up front to say, follow these rules, it's going to get overwhelmed and it's not going to do it well. It's better to instead give it an enforceable feedback mechanism and to say, I'm going to encode my stylistic rules as lint rules, have it run those, respond to that feedback. And it can go back and forth multiple times until it finally gets something satisfactory. And only then does it show it to you.
That's amazing. This reminds me a little bit on Tamagotchi. I think you can't overfeed it and it will probably die. Just like from time to time, you need to pay attention, take care of it, and then, once it can grow and learn and survive longer without food. I really have no clue how Tamagotchis work. I totally forgot everything. Joel, thank you so much. That was really interesting. I really like that. Did we miss anything that you want to cover?
Well, expanding a little bit on that last point, lint rules are one way of giving feedback, but there are so many ways that you could find to give feedback to an LLM. If you use a test suite is a really good way to get feedback. If you're writing code in a typed language like TypeScript, that's another great way to get feedback. You can also give your tool better sort of sensors, ways of discovering what's around it in its world. So a lot of these AI tools right now can actually load, if you're running a web app, load it in a browser and try to click around. They can examine what's in the viewport, what gets clipped, things like that. And so they can do a sort of less deterministic and more subjective QA pass on their own as well, if you give them access to that environment to test out things. So think about deterministic ways you can give feedback, but also think about what are the ways you can allow it to sense its environment so that it has more signals to work off of. How do you give it sight, smell, taste, all of these things, because otherwise it's just a brain in a jar.
Thank you so much. It was lovely having you. Really fantastic. We can post any resources that you have in the description and continue the conversations in the comments as well. Thanks everyone for watching or listening, and see you next time. Bye.